Okay, so for lesson number 1, we're going to start by learning our first chord, which is called E minor. And for E minor, I use fingers number 1 and number 2. So I start by putting my first finger on the 2nd fret, on the 5th string, and my second finger goes immediately below that, also in the 2nd fret, on the 4th string. So we have 3 rules, very important rules for getting clear chords. Our first rule is to press down hard enough, and most beginners don't press down hard enough simply because it hurts their fingers when they do it. But it's just an initial kind of pain barrier that you have to go through when you start playing guitar, that your fingers are going to hurt a little bit. So after a few weeks it'll stop hurting because the skin on the tops of your fingers will have gotten harder, so that it'll stop hurting once that happens. But initially you do have to go through a little bit of discomfort when you start playing guitar. So that's our first rule, is to press down hard enough. The second rule is to use the very tips of your fingers. So if you notice that my fingers are not flat on the fretboard, they're actually right up on the very tips, so they're nice and high. And the third rule is that I'm up the front of my frets, so that I'm not at the back in this position, but I'm really right up the front. So using those 3 rules, you should get a nice clear chord. So my E minor, putting all of that together, sounds like this. And then for my second chord, all I'm going to do is move that shape down 1 string each. So I simply lift off and move each finger down 1 string each, and this second chord I'm going to call easy A. Now, easy A has a more technical name than that, but for now we're just going to refer to it as easy A. So to get back up to E minor, I simply move everything up 1 string each, and that's my E minor, and then I go down for easy A. Now we come to strum number 1. So strum number 1 is really a useful strum, and you should be able to see now on the screen a list of songs that we would use strum number 1 to play. I'll try and go through it nice and slowly so that you can see exactly how we're going to do it. I start by going down, down, up, up, down, up, and that's the complete strum. Down, down, up, up, down, up. And what you want is to loop that around and around so that it becomes like a never-ending circle, always keeping on the same time and in the same tempo. So it's going down, down, up, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, up. Now most beginners find that it's the 2 upstrokes in the middle of the strum which can be a little bit confusing at first, but all you need is just to practice it really slowly, and after a little while it'll become really effortless and automatic. So the trick is just to drill it around slowly, taking your time. Okay, so with this system we always use drum tracks to practice to and to do all our exercises to. So all of these drum tracks are, as I said, available on the practice module, and for practicing our strum you might notice that I've been actually muting my strings, and I do that simply by placing all 4 fingers flat across my strings so that I don't apply any pressure. I just touch them, and then when I strum I get a nice percussive sound. So what I'm going to do is put on a drum track now. It's going to be at 80 beats per minute, and I'm just going to apply my strum to that tempo so you can see how it sounds kind of in a real musical sense. So I'm just loading up here now. So it gets 80 beats per minute. I'm going down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, up. So now that we have our chords on one side, our E minor and easy A, and our strum number 1 on the other side, the next step is kind of obvious. We have to try and put both of those elements together. And we're going to build this up in stages. So first I'm going to again work with the drum track and just do a single strum on each chord. So you should be able to count 4 beats between each chord. So we have E minor, 2, 3, 4, and then easy A, 2, 3, 4. So I'll start the drums there now. Just do single strum. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, our next step is to apply half of strum number 1. So if we had the full strum going down, down, up, up, down, up, this is just, the half strum is just going down, down, up, and then you rest, down, down, up. So we're going to apply that half strum now to our progression. Okay, so I should mention at this point that you should really be pausing the DVD through all the different segments to give yourself time to practice each one before going on to the next one. And in that way, we're creating sort of the same circumstance that we would have in a one-to-one lesson. The last thing to do now is to progress on to a full strum number 1. So I'm going to rewind again. I'm still on 80 beats per minute. I'm doing a full strum number 1 now. Now we're going to go on to a new chord called G, and we're going to start again on E minor. And to get to G, we have a connector, and that connector is your first finger. And what that means is that your first finger between E minor and G doesn't have to move, it stays where it is on the fretboard. So to get to G, my second finger comes up onto the 6th string, 3rd fret, and my third finger goes all the way down to the end, again in the 3rd fret, but on the 1st string. And then I apply all my same chord rules. I press down hard, use the tips of my fingers, and I'm up the front of my frets, or at least in the middle, and I get my G chord. So to get back to E minor, my 3rd finger comes off, and my 2nd finger goes back underneath, and I'm on my E minor. And then out to G, my 2nd finger comes up, my 3rd finger goes down the very end, and I'm on G. So if I change between my E minor and G in this way, you can see how my first finger is basically staying in the same position as a connector between those two chords. And it's alright if your first finger moves a little bit backwards and forwards to make space for your 2nd finger to come underneath. But what you don't want is for it to leave the string completely, or for it to go outside of the 2nd space. You always want it to be sort of maintained within that 2nd fret on your guitar. So let's build E minor to G now in the same way as we did with our E minor to easy A, in single strums, half strums, and then full strum. I'm again staying on 80 beats per minute. Okay, now we'll go on to a half strum. And finally, a full strum. And that's it for lesson number 1.